Hi, my name is Maria Nodolf,
George Lowry.
and we're here today to interview Bob Peterson for the Orangevale History Project. Today is September 15th, 2023, and Bob, you moved from East Sacramento to Orangevale in 1963. Where
Yes.
did you move? Where did you live when you moved to Orangevale?
We lived at 6735 Pecan Avenue.
And that's the old Shackleton place.
Yes,
And did I believe it's 5 acres?
two
You had 2 acres.
acres.
And you said that. Tell us about Mrs. Shackleton, Mary Shackleton. She lived in the house you lived in for quite a while, did
Yes.
she not?
Yes,
Do you know how long she lived there?
I have no idea.
But-
I'll tell you what, she showed me a picture of the house prior to the one that's there now that had 13 steps to go up. This area must have been flooding in the early when she lived there in early to have that many steps up to the house. But 13 steps is sort of scary too. That's what a gallows has to it, you know. And we often laughed at that. But she came down to our house, and or where we moved into. Well, let me tell you why we moved out here. My wife's sister lived out here, and she called. We were living in Northgate at the particular time, and they were going to build low rate houses, and we needed to get out of there before they depreciated the amount of the value of our house. Anyway, one day she called my wife. Her sister called Susan, called my wife, and she said, Eleanor, she says, there's a house out here that is advertised in the paper. So she said, you ought to come out and take a look at it. It's got some property. So we came, and the agent for the real estate person was living across the street from where we came. And so we came out and looked at the house, and it was laughable. We went there, and the real estate agent took us, and we went to the house, and he knocked on the door, and it was open, and there was a guy that come out there, and he was repairing his motorcycle in the living room. And to this day, the porch there still has a chunk of cement out of it, just a nick on the cement where he took one of his motorcycles and it chipped it off. And every day every time I'd sit there and watch it, or look at the porch, I'd see that notch, and Eleanor and I, that was our inside joke that we would laugh.
Now, Mary Shackleton still lived north of you on some of her property. Is that correct?
No, she passed away.
Yes, but before she did, she lived,
Yes, yes.
she lived in the chicken house that
Yes.
she had redone?
Yes, it was a chicken house that was redone. It was like a house. It had a bathroom in it, and it had a bedroom in it, and it had, but the board that was the outside wall was the outside side of it, and the inside was on the same board. So, yeah. But she was deathly afraid of spiders. So every so often I would get a call from her on the phone. She'd say, "Bob, would you please come down and kill a spider take care of a spider for me?" She didn't say kill a spider. She says, "Take care of a spider for me." And I did. She also had her heating was kerosene stove, because she had a huge or a large tank outside the house she would get kerosene and periodically and then that's one of the things that was strange about it, because people in this day and age didn't have that. So anyway, it was 5 acres, and right now there's a plaque on the street that says that the house that I bought was there, and that's false. That's something that, and I've tried to get the Chamber of Commerce to change that. And when I lived there, I went over to the community center twice and talked to the people there, and they never wanted to change the plaque there. That didn't seem to be their forte. You know, it just. It was, for some reason, they didn't take care of that. But so when we moved in there at the corner of Pecan and Central, on the northeast corner, there was a 2-story house, and there were 2 brothers and a sister living in it at the particular time, and they shortly moved out of it and left for Boston, east of Boston, and they never came back, and they never paid the taxes on it and so forth. And I thought at one time that I don't know why I have a frog in my throat. So anyway, there was a barn that had big timbers in it, and as I understand it, someone told me that when they farmed that area, they farmed the east side of Pecan from Central to up the one to the next street to the north, and I can't think of the name of it right now.
Is that Elm?
Huh?
Elm?
Elm.
And was this the Shackletons who farmed it?
Mm-hmm.
What did they grow? Do you know?
They grew fruit. and then they had a big warehouse there that they the warehouse was gone when I moved there, but there was the cement slab and it was quite large, so they did it, you know, for a business, and they would do this by transporting the fruit to Roseville, where they put it in refrigerated cars and then to the east. There was a barn up on the next corner of Central and Hazel. The street that runs north and south.
There's Hazel and then there's Maine, but that's...
No, that's way up there. But Hazel is where the Catholic Church is, isn't it?
No, that's on Filbert.
Okay, Filbert. Okay, at Filbert and Central, there was a tin building there that was the packing shed, and it was there was a sign on it, Peterson's remedy for your worst enemies, you know. And I thought that was, and I wanted to get that, but then somebody else got it before I did.
Darn.
So, yeah. So,
So you lived in this house for a long time.
we lived in it, well, from 63 to when I moved out of it here.
About 50 years, was it about 50 years later?
Oh, well, I moved here 3 years ago, 2023. No, this is 2023. I've lived here
That would be since 2020?
2020, yeah.
Well, that's almost 70 years. No, that can't be. Anyway, you lived there a long, long time.
Yeah, I lived there.
And you raised your family there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, we had some funny neighbors. Mr. McGrath was a engineer for the Southern Pacific Company, and he lived next door to us, on the south side of it. Both of our property both had not streets, but driveways on both sides of it. And so we had a Mormon family living to the north of us, great family, and we used to sit on. I talked to the man, and I can't think of his name now. And I had it the other day, and I should have wrote some of these notes down, but I didn't. So anyway, we would discuss our different views or our beliefs and so forth. I happen to be of the Catholic faith, and my family is of the Catholic faith, and he was Mormon. And they brought, the first week that they were there, they had a watermelon patch in the front of their house, and the boys, the young boys, brought us over a couple of watermelon that as a you know, a gift of moving into the neighborhood. We had on our property we had fig trees, we had olive trees, um, fruit. We had fruit. We had a cherry tree. We had a nectarine tree, apples. All of these things were there that were bearing fruit very well, and we really appreciated it. That's one reason why, because I was born on a farm in Nebraska, and so I had a feeling towards my grandfather was a farmer, and he farmed. He raised black Angus in Nebraska, and I can remember being on the farm. A lot of things funny that I recalled. I recall very vividly my cousin came to visit us one day in Nebraska, and my grandmother said, take Miles out to the barn and show him around what's in the barn. So I took him out to the barn and showed him, and there was some stuff that they had mixed that was that they would soak seed corn in, that the cutworms, arsenic is what they put in it. And she says, don't ever touch that. And then they also had a big drum of wheat soaking for the pigs. So I showed my cousin, and I said, see, and I stirred around in the arsenic, and I thought, oh my goodness, because she says, don't ever do that. So and then I washed it in the pig feed, and I thought, oh, now the pigs are going to die. So I went into the house, and I said, Mama, I always call her Mama, I stuck my hand in the treatment corn and washed my hand in the barley. Oh.
So you had a Mormon family living on one side, and the McGraths lived on the other side of you.
McGrath, actually, there was it was a rental that was on the street, and then half of my property then was when the McGraths, and Mr. McGrath, he was an engineer for the Southern Pacific. One day I was out in the back of the property preparing some ground for a garden, and I heard him. Now this is my wife, and her name is Eleanor, and mine is Bob. And I heard this man yelling over there, Eleanor, get over here. Damn it, Bob, leave her alone. And I'm wondering, what is going on? Did I tell you this before? Huh?
But you need to say it again.
Yeah, and I went over there and I said, did you want me to come over here? And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you were hollering for Bob and Eleanor. Did you want us to come over or something? Hell no, he says. There's Bob and there's Eleanor. And he pointed to a couple of police dogs, you know.
Shepherds?
Yeah, shepherds, yeah. And one was named Bob and one was named Eleanor. And I laughed all the way back to the back door of the house, and I went in and I said, well, Eleanor, we're famous. She says, what? And I said, well, our neighbor has 2 dogs, 2 shepherds. And I said, One is named Eleanor and the other named Bob. And she couldn't stop laughing, and she had to call her sister and tell her that about this. That was the family joke. Then after that,
I imagine so. So the McGraths were they Leif McGrath
yeah,
and Anne?
Anne,
Okay,
yes.
all right. And he was an engineer. And what did you do for a living?
I work for the telephone company. Yeah, I had been in the Navy, and they sent me to an electronics school, and so I could operate sonar equipment and also fix it if it broke down. So I had electronics. So I had worked for the phone company for first of all outside on the lines, but then I eventually went inside one of the officials that had our office downtown recognized I was taking night courses at American River College to get solid state theory, transistors and so forth. I didn't have that, so I had he one evening asked me if I would like to come in and work down in that office. He recognized that I had, some training in it. So I said yes. I was tired of stinking manholes and, in the wood time. Anyway.
Did you retire from the phone company?
Yes, after 40 years.
Okay. 40 years.
Retired.
So that's a lot of years. Now your children, you have 5. Is that correct?
6.
6 children.
I have 5 girls and 1 boy.
Okay. And some of them are local.
Yes.
Let me see. Yes, quite a few of them are local. And what schools did they attend?
Well, they attended. Came out here just about the time that the high school was in their first year, and my oldest daughter, she got very friendly with the daughter of the principal of Casa Roble, and they both hit it off, and then Kathleen, she was the next one. It's Christina, Kathleen. No, better not go there.
I have Mary.
Mary, yes.
And Melissa.
Yes.
And is there a Jennifer in there somewhere?
Yes.
And there's Matthew.
Yes.
So when you say she went to CASA, do you remember the name of her friend or the principal's name?
I don't.
Okay, it's all right.
I can't remember.
And that is Christina, correct?
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
who taught at Twin Lakes for a long
Yes.
time. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
She had her master's in education, so I was very proud of her. That she lives right over on Lady Jane, and she keeps track of me. In fact, yesterday, Kathleen and Christina took me up to Kaiser in their establishment up in Rockland. No, not Rockland. It's
Roseville? The
No.
Roseville one?
North.
I think
North.
That's the one right there on Douglas and...
No.
No.
No,
Yes.
this is up north.
Okay.
See, I found out yesterday I'm losing my memory.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to have some tests to find out how far if they can do anything for this, to, nothing I can do about it. It's just that I'm losing it. Yeah. It's very traumatic for me.
It is, that's a hard thing, I think, for,
I know it is.
yes, yes, so,
Because I've always had a good memory. Always had a good memory.
well, evidently, because you're telling us all these wonderful stories.
Yes.
Well, stories I can remember, but I mean, sometimes it's not a story, and that's the part that gets to me.
Bob, your children, they attended which elementary school out here?
They attended the elementary school there on Central and
Filbert.
Filbert.
That'd be Orangevale Elementary.
Yes.
And then where did they go to junior high? To Pasteur?
Yes,
And then to Casa?
and then to Casa.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, all of them. And I believe you had mentioned that your son Matthew was an Eagle Scout.
Yes,
Were you involved in
I was. I was a scoutmaster we met at the secondary up there at the end of Pecan at the junior high school.
at Pasteur?
Pasteur, yeah, we met. That's where we had. Yeah, we had a troop. There was several men who took part in that. This is the time when Boy Scouts was getting a black thing by, so we had definite, strict rules on camping. We would never go with less than 3 men, so that nothing would happen. And we had Bob Kamina, who lived, he was a deputy sheriff in Sacramento, and he was one of our scoutmasters, Bob Kamina. And let's see, the one, there was a German man that lived. He was lived on it was the next street over, and the next street, that one that went past the junior high school there. It was a German name, and he was very good. And they had, by the time that I took over as scoutmasters, the ladies of the troop had made beautiful tents for the troop.
Oh.
Yeah, and enough that would sleep. And we took one year, we made a trip through Desolation Valley. If you're where that, we went 75 miles through Desolation Valley from up there off of 50, and we wound our way through the Desolation Valley. We used, we couldn't build fires in Desolation Valley, so we had to get these little, what they called a tripod stove, propane, and that to heat our water and so forth. Yeah.
So you were a scoutmaster, and
Oh, I was a Cub Scout master in North Sacramento, first of all.
Uh-huh.
And actually, when I was in scouting, you had to be 9 years old to become a scout. and it was during the Second World War, and we would get a scoutmaster. Well, it was gasoline rationing. That was one thing we could, we had the thing, and another thing was that we couldn't get a steady scoutmaster that was of our age. I mean, we could get somebody that's, 70 years old or 60 years old, but, forget that, And so it was very difficult. But I, in Sacramento, we were over in a park that was called. It was right by the elementary school there on J Street. J Street and 52nd and J. And so we would gather over there at the park and play football and so forth. And one day while we were out there playing football, and there was a bunch of elderly gentlemen come over there that were carrying food, and then they had a couple of wheelbarrows and so forth. So we went over and they started digging in the dirt, and digging sod up, and we said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're going to build a bocce ball court." And I said, "What's bocce ball?" And they said, "Well, you help us here, and we'll teach you what it's all about." So we did. We dumped the dirt and everything. And quite recently, I took my family over there and showed them this thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's fully enclosed now with tall thing. It has both the runners on it. Bocce ball is like a bowling. Do you know what it is?
Yes, it's an Italian game, I believe.
Yeah. And that I marvel at the what they've done there at that. But Kit Carson Junior High School is where I went to middle school. I guess it was 3 grades. I can't remember really at that particular time. 2 or 3 grades. But it doesn't. They tore it down because it wasn't earthquake proof, and they moved it from the 52nd and M Street back to the corner, and in the back of this same lot. And when I went there, we could go over to the hot dog stand. It was called. I had it just the other day. Anyway, you could buy a hot dog and a Coke for 15 cents. And we'd sometimes walk over there and do it. We could walk over there. They didn't keep us confined to the playground. We could. So anyway, so that's not here. That's
In Sacramento.
in Sacramento.
Well, it's very interesting that you were at the very beginning of the bocce ball court. That's very interesting. In Orangevale, you were a Boy Scout leader. Did you ever participate or were involved in powwow days?
Not in powwow days, but we had our own camporee days. And we would go up north by a lake But then for some reason, when my daughter, we used to take her third grade class up there, and they would do nature study and so forth. But the rattlesnake started taking over, and so she had to cut that out because it was too dangerous. So anyway, at the corner, that's here, I wanted to tell you, at the corner of Pecan and Central, there was that two-story house. And in this two-story house, I am told, there was a large table that the what do they call the contract or the thing, the California state rules were signed on this Constitution.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the table that it was signed on was in there. Well, somebody broke into this house because there was nobody living there and so forth. They broke into this house and took that table. It was a beautiful table. Now, I was there one day when I went by and went out into the barn that I was looking at some big timbers in the barn that they had for their workhorses to tie them to and so forth. And there was somebody in the house, and I went up there and looked, and the cupboards doors had glass in them that had been etched with acid. Yeah, that the design on them they were beautiful. And they kept it locked up, but then somebody broke into it and took those. And that made me very sad. Mm-hmm. But when I came home that day, and the tractor was taking the house apart and so forth, I said, what are you going to do in the barn? And he said, well, I haven't decided. And I said, well, there's some timbers in there. I said, are you going to, he said, well, I'm going to have to, demolish it or something. And I said, there's some timbers in there. Can I have those? And he said, sure, if you want them. I said, I just live down the street. So the next day, I had put some racks on my truck, and because I had a little 40 Ford coupe truck, and so I put the racks on them, and sure enough, there was laying out along the side. Now I took them, and then when Divine Savior Church came from Folsom into Orangevale, I was telling one of the fellows about it. Oh gosh. Oh, his name was like my brother, for crying out loud. Anyway, I'll think of it one of these days. But anyway, so I said, he's come over and he said, I need to make a cross to put where the new church is going to be, over, at there where the property is. That's right back of Tomich. Tomich, yeah. Yes, right there next to the orchard. So we did. we put it, we made it and we put it down there. Well, they have saved that and they use it now every Easter. They use it in the vestibule of the church.
So that is, so you made the cross out of the timbers from the barn.
Yes,
How big is this cross?
it would stand as probably as high as the door, and then, however a cross would be, it would, that it has more than this spread on the cross beams, and that goes in the vestibule, and then on one of the days that they have it, and I looked at the end of the one, and it's almost a flat line for the growth rings. Almost a flat line. So I imagine that this came from a tree. I figured it out about 200 years old, because if it was that flat, and it would be quite a large, quite a old tree, and so I always touch it and say, I'm still here. Now my wife, I was in the Navy, and I was stationed in San Diego. I was on a destroyer, and my buddy and I decided to go to Phoenix, Arizona he was from Oregon and he liked rodeos, and so we went to the rodeo in Phoenix, and then we stayed overnight and came back the next day, and it was a miserable day. Wind, dirt, tumbleweed blowing, and we were out there thumbing on the highway. And I told Earl, I said, gee, I hope a couple of good-looking gals pick us in a fancy car. And here came a Cadillac, and there was two girls in it, and they passed us like, down the road they went. So here came a little 40 Ford Coupe. She and her girlfriend were in it, and her girlfriend's name was Laura, which my mother's name was Laura. So they pulled over, and Laura got out of the thing. She says, well, come on if you want to take a chance. So we jogged on down there and got in, and I slid over, and I looked at Eleanor, and I said, hi, my name is Bob. And she says, that's nice. Wasn't it? The problem is, her mother had told her, never pick up hitchhikers. Never picked up. Well, we were in uniforms. What the heck, But, so anyway, she was very quiet. So then we started dating, and finally, why, I married her. Never had problems.
She's a beautiful woman. Let me see if we can, do you think it's possible to get a picture of it on the camera?
Just to move it over there?
Or move the picture over?
Yeah, that's probably the easiest.
Do you see it?
Yeah, got it.
Good, excellent.
Read the little card on
It says, Dad, I wanted Mom to be a little part of your Christmas this year, so I stitched this little heart to add to your tree. The fabric is from her fleece jacket. I'm sure you remember it, as it was her favorite. So she will be with you always. Love, Chris. beautiful.
I have children that are grandchildren and great-grandchildren that are all wonderful people.
Well, then you are a lucky man, I must say. Is that photograph there, is that you?
Yep. Here.
I'll get it.
Okay.
How old are you in this photograph? Are you even 20?
I was just about 20. Yeah.
It's lovely. You're so handsome, no wonder she married you.
Well, my mother was a teacher. She taught country schools in Nebraska. And she said some of the kids were bigger and older than she was, you know. But, you know, some of the guys, they would, you know, have to help their parents with the chores, with the crops. So they would, you know, only could be at school for, you know, possibly 3/4 of what we know now. So, but
Do you have any other memories of Orangevale that you want to share?
well, I don't know whether I should share this or not, but I'll tell you the story on it. You know, the church that's there on Central, just across from the water company.
Yes.
There, that church that they finally made into a residence.
Yes.
Okay, they were making it into the residence, and they crawled under the floorboards. They pulled out three big cases of what do you call it when they make it in the woods, the whiskey.
Oh, bootleg whiskey?
Bootleg whiskey. Out of foot under the church.
Perfect.
Yeah. That was, and yeah, that was I don't know who told me that they found that in the under the floor of the church, and so it could well been, you know, but not for the present people that lived there, but from this was, and that's right, because it
must have been from Prohibition.
Yes, that's what it was from.
And somebody forgot about it.
Yeah, that's what it was from, was Prohibition.
Exactly.
It was an old, you know, case box of it, you know, been under there for a long while.
Wow. That's a wonderful story. Anything else?
Well, a lot of things. The grocery store up there where the drive-in 7-Eleven is now, you know where that is? Okay, that grocery store there had a basement to it. And they would keep a lot of their stuff down there in the basement. I remember having to, you know, go there and wait for things to be brought up from the basement.
That's kind of a rare thing here.
Yeah.
Yes, so anything else?
Well, let's see. Probably. Well, where the Bank of America was, it was across the street. Oh, I know what the story is. Where the Chamber of Commerce building is now, right next to it was the Bank of America, and no, it was a parts store. That's what it was. And the guy's name was Oscar that worked in there, and that happened to be my grandfather's name. That's why I remember it. And his name was Oscar. And he would work 7 days out of the week. He never took a day off. And it was open 7 days a week, at the parts store. And he was, if you needed a part for your car or so forth, you went there, and he probably had it or could get it, Well, one of my daughters was, she worked for the parts store that's down the street there, across from the Sunday place, the Sunday.
Dairy Queen?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. It's across the street,
Uh-huh.
and across from where they test for your car for your.
For smog?
Yeah. Anyway, she worked for them. She was a parts delivery store, a parts person that delivered the parts that people would order and so forth. Men that were, if they'd be working on a car and they needed, they could call in there and they would get it. And she was, that was Mary. She knew everybody in town, and she worked doing that. And most of my kids, they either worked for the Tomich picking or splitting, drying fruit, and they would come home and their hands would be all sticky and so forth. And we had a swimming pool in the backyard of our place, and it was one of those where you dig a hole in the ground and then you put a liner. Mm-hmm. And it was 7 foot at one end and 3 foot at the other. And those kids, they said, we had stake A, and the instructions said put a stake in the ground, and that's stake A, and they gave the measurements always from stake A. Well, I went down there, and of course I worked nights. You see, this is the whole thing at the telephone company downtown. And I would come home, and I would go right to bed, and then I'd get up about 11 o'clock and have lunch, but then I think I put that thing in the middle of the summer vacation, because I had one of the guys on the back of, and he still lives there, where on the driveway on the south side of the property, there's if I had my, anyway, he still lives there, and he had a backhoe, and he dug the 7 foot end, and then I cleaned it up. He roughed it, then I cleaned it, made it smooth and everything, and then we dropped that thing in the thing, and those kids, they still say that was one of the most wonderful gifts I could ever give them. You know, was a swimming pool that they could swim. We had it for, and it had filters in it, and I had a shelf. I had a lean-to alongside of the old the shop was a garage that they used to park their Model T Fords in, and it was small. And then there's a lean-to on the east side of it, and underneath there I had the filter, and then on the top of the roof I had put black rubber plastic hose around and made a thing, and the sun would heat it and everything, so they had, you know, it wouldn't be cold. It would be.
Well, I bet they loved that.
Yeah, they did. They did. I did a lot of things because I was able to by working nights. So.
Wonderful. Well, this is great. We would like to come back and interview you at a later date about the history of Divine Savior, but that would be a new interview.
The what?
The history of Divine Savior.
History of Divine Savior.
But we will do that another time.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a great interview.
Okay.
It's some wonderful stories.
All right. Well.
Thank you very much.
Oh well, no problem. Like I say, I better get it now. You know. Although I did, I hit the jackpot yesterday when the doctor was asking me. He said, "All right, now," says, "we've talked about Chicago." He says, "What state is that?" And I said, "Illinois." I mean, I was that quick. And so my daughters took me out. They said, "Okay, you know, you have hope, you know, because, you know, that was." But I'm pretty good, you know. I'm pretty good in remembering some things.
Well,
So-
Bob, I think we forgot to mention you were born in 1929, and you are 93 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good deal. Okay. We're done then? Okay.